everyone, this is the Nameless One, and tonight we will be doing an Alicorn discusses horror, Grimdark, and MLP. I would have thrown creepypastas in there as well, but, it's not as snappy of a title. Before we get started, I would like to remind everybody, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring the notification bell, follow on Twitch, all that good stuff if you want to see more of this kind of content, as well as the other content that I make. As well as if you want to support the channel, there will be links in the description, as well as links for some of the people that are joining me tonight. Other than that, we'll have more about that stuff at the end. And I'm going to go ahead and bully fiction. So you're going to tell us who you are, what you do, and favorite thing about Grimdark or horror creepypastas, whichever one you happen to prefer. I can English.
Well, hello everyone. My name is the Fictional Writer, also known as Fiction. I am a fanfic author, writer on the side, and I am making some YouTube videos that I swear I'll get along to posting. My favorite thing, I'm gonna have to just go with creepypastas in general on this. Is just how out of the blue that they can come from and how big of a community that can just suddenly appear around them, such as SCP appearing out of nowhere, or the whole Slender Man photo.
That one works. That one works. I don't think SCP qualifies.
SCP was originally considered. Not anymore. Now it's its own thing.
Anyways, next person. Nashi.
Hello, I'm Nashi, also known as Nashi Arts. I'm an artist and a streamer, but I do dabble in writing a little bit, and I love horror and dark things. So I absolutely had to jump on the chance to get here.
That it?
Yeah.
Okay. Stella, your turn.
I'm Stella Starr. I'm a voice actor, writer, and artist, and I just like it in general. I don't really know what to say for the favorite part of it. I just like it in general.
Okay. Blue Shade.
Hey, this is Blue Shade. I am an artist, writer, musician. I like all things that are grimdark and creepypasta and things like that because, number one, I like dark things. Number two, they can be kind of corny sometimes, and I'm all into that kind of stuff.
And give me just a sec. The brain cell. Sophia. I don't know why I kept wanting to call you Amelia.
No, you're fine. Hi, I'm Sophia. I go by Artstar with Pony content. I'm an artist, singer, BA, and writer. And I think my favorite part about Grimdarks is just the imagination that comes behind it, and just you can kind of come up with whatever, and the things that you don't think are scary or don't think about that a character can do. I feel like it's really interesting to see what people come up with.
Okay. And so Matsu was, while he is on the roster at the moment, he is not quite here with us yet. So he will get to introduce himself a little bit later. So that leaves me. If you don't know who I am, welcome to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe. I am the Nameless One. I do a lot of grimdark writing, storytelling, through both my campaigns and a lot of the other things that I do. For me, the thing about grimdark horror and all of that is a lot of the times it feels like it has more realistic endings than the they lived happily ever after, because the world never really ends happily ever after. So that's one of the things that draws me to grimdark storytelling. Anyways, so first thing we're going to start with is a few definitions. I'm actually going to throw the audience, or not the audience, the guests. I am just all of the brain cells are leaving today. I'm gonna have some of the guests answer. Especially sometimes that's where this podcast came from. It's a brain cell fired. It scared me. I wasn't prepared for it.
More than I have.
But yeah, I'm gonna have you guys answer like what you believe as grimdark horror, and we'll throw creepypastas in there as well, because I don't actually know what the difference between creepypasta and horror is, because to me they're just genres of each other, if that makes sense. Anyways, I know fiction has been champing at the bit to tell me I'm wrong about grimdark, so we'll hear his first.
Let's go. All right. Well, first, thank you for having me on. Secondly, yeah, so grimdark is just like the utter, like, lowest and darkest kind of thing you can get, whether it be dark in a more violent or depraved sense, or just generally speaking dark themes. It goes a lot more into stuff like death and all that. The main thing that we will probably disagree with is I do not believe at all that grimdark has to have any form of like positivity or breakage to it. In my mind, when I think of grimdark, I think of stuff like Berserk and 40K, where generally speaking, it's just really sad, man. Just really sad.
I will save my arguments till it's my turn to like give everybody a chance to. Do you have anything you want to say about horror or creepypastas, definition wise?
Oh, creepypasta, sure. So creepypasta is a internet horror genre that is basically meant to be easily spreadable around, easily like made and transferable, usually on like the simpler ideas. So think of like Jeff the Killer, Slender Man, the Backrooms, original Backrooms, not today's stuff. And the original SCP post on 4chan. That's like creepypasta. Easily copy pastable everywhere. Nice little creepy story. So, it shares the root of pasta with copy pasta.
That's why it's a lot of them got started with like the email chains for Smile Dog. Is my assumption. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Because it was just so easy to just spread around and get it all put out, because you could just have a picture like Smile Dog or Jeff the Killer, and then put the blurt right below it, and people would see the image and go, "Oh, damn, let me look into this."
Okay. So I guess I should probably reframe the question a little bit in like what grimdark horror and creepypastas are to you guys as individuals, and then I'm gonna pick on. Hold on, the brain cell is trying to run away again. Sophia again. Don't worry, I will figure it out eventually.
Oh, I'm not entirely sure how to find the difference. It's fine. I'm not really sure how I really define the difference, or what my definition of like dark, creepypasta. I know different, but it's just like a weird way for me to explain. Like I don't exactly know how to explain it, but what I feel in general is just darks are just probably darker stories like fiction has said. And there doesn't need to be a happy ending. Whereas I feel like horror, there's so much more that can go on in a horror sense. That I feel like the horror is just kind of broad, and then Grimdark is kind of like narrowing it down like more. Creepypasta, I just feel like are like fun little things that people do, just make something be just for people and writing stuff.
So I think we got the majority of what you were trying to say.
Job explaining that,
but you seem to be having some connection issues. Just heads up.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
That's fine. We're gonna go ahead and let Stella go next.
I'm not 100% sure what the actual definition of each different is, but to me, I think that Grimdarks are supposed to be a dark story. Like, it's just supposed to be dark in general. Either super dark with blood and guts and whatever, or something that focused more on mentally dark, like emotionally distressing, stuff like that. Horror is your normal horror movie or something where there's a killer or a monster of some sort that is causing fear. And a creepypasta kind of just a story that either is a myth or made up, but it's something that is supposed to creep you out, make you feeling of something that is behind you, that you're unsafe.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
That does in fact make sense. Do you want to take a crack at... did you take a crack at creepypasta? You cut out through part of that, so I wasn't sure.
I did. I think I'm having connected and internet issues. Sorry, and I have no idea how to fix it. Creepypastas. Wait, what did I do?
I think I heard the creepypasta part.
I heard it too.
Okay.
Okay. Then
Okay.
we'll move on to Blue.
Okay, so what is Grimdark? Well, it's... Sorry, my dog barked there, but to me, Grimdark is fiction that's extremely dark, whether it's dystopian, whether it's amoral, whether it's extremely violent. It has dark themes all around in general. And as I'm sure Fiction already said, the term came from Warhammer 40,000. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. As for horror, well, that's just anything that's meant to disgust or scare you. And creepypastas, once again as Fiction said, it's a combination of creepy and copypasta. A copypasta is just text that is meant to be copied and pasted, spread around the internet easily, to elicit reactions from people who don't understand that it's like a meme or things like that. Like Jeff the Killer, Slenderman, you know the drill. Creepy stories that are meant to be easily spread through text.
Okay. And Nashi, your turn.
Okay, so when I hear horror, I just think of like, scary, horrific, anything along those lines. Like it's a broad thing. Whereas like when I hear Grimdark, I think of a world that's reached like, or maybe not an entire world in general, but like, a scenario that's reached its lowest point. Like It can get better from there, but like we are currently seeing the world at its lowest point. It's grim. Like everything is just grim, and like what's going on is typically like horrible. So everything just feels like it can't get worse from where it is.
Okay.
And then for creepypastas, well, just going by where the name came from, creepypasta. It's a copy pasta, but it's creepy and scary and horror-y. But I also see it as more of like creepypastas tend to be like kind of a snippet, like an incomplete story, where it's like, oh yeah, this person exists or this thing exists, but we never like get like an actual end to the story. It's just like a thing to be like, you better watch out because this thing exists. Like, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
kind of akin to like the old stories that parents would tell their kids to make sure they don't sneak out at night, like the boogeyman or something. Like that kind of thing is what I associate creepypasta with.
Okay. And since it seems that Matsu is still not here yet, I'm just going to go ahead and take my turn on this. And so I feel like because of the generalized way in which I define Grimdark myself, misunderstandings have happened. When I say light in Grimdark, so Grimdark to me is a balancing act. There is a certain amount of like light or good things that happen to the characters, which can be as little as they have a moment to breathe and have a character interaction that feels meaningful, that the reader can get invested in, that can break a bit of the like downward spiral that is Grimdark, to like have an uplifting moment that is immediately, or sometimes there's a little burn before it, followed by a much further down. It's a genre full of empiric victories and dystopias. It's always one of those where the final victory is never, and they lived happily ever after. There's always a catch. A good example in the fandom of what I consider a good Grimdark story ending is actually Fallout Equestria, the original fic, where it was, yes, we've beat the thing, and things are looking better, but the main hero is never going to get to actually see it because she's trapped in a pod, and that is where she will stay for the rest of the time that she's alive. Victories like that are something of a hallmark for Grimdark stories, which Grimdark also often goes hand in hand with horror. The genres blend very easily, and horror is one of those things where it's meant to disturb the reader in some way. If your reader is not uncomfortable reading your story as a horror writer, then you're not quite doing it right. Either a discomfort as in they're waiting for like something to happen, and I see you unmuted, Fiction, so if you have something to say, like I usually tell everybody, say it. Do you have an interjection?
Right now you're
Fiction
good.
getting picked on for real.
He and I are both very similar in our writing styles and both good at writing, so I am going to jab him every so often. But back to what I was saying, with horror, it's meant to find different ways to disturb the reader and, in some cases, question the very core of their beliefs. As with cosmic horror, one of my favorite genres of horror, it is the idea that the universe is vast and unending, and you're nothing in it. You're just a speck of insignificance. That there are entities.
Approved.
There are entities out there that they don't even know you exist. And that I have seen that break people just that concept. So it is very effective for certain people, which is probably why it fascinates me so much. As far as creepypastas go, because of the fact that like I kind of like my adult life was spent watching the creepypasta community explode in popularity, I got used to them writing more horror stories than actual creepypasta style stories. So I got used to the ones with conclusions, the ones with but based off of what you guys have been telling me, a proper creepypasta is you've got a suggestion of something, a short story that doesn't have a proper ending, that leaves it ambiguous so that any other story that comes after can do the same. And essentially it's meant to lead on with a perpetual they're still out there kind of vibe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that fits really well.
and it's short, so it has to be easily spreadable as well.
Which is where the name actually comes from, because it came from copy pasta, but creepy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is your Smile Dogs and your Jeff the Killers and Slender Man. It's just, at this point, it might as well just be its own horror genre, because it's evolved past the days of the copy pasta. Now you have, like, extended universes for the likes of Slender Man.
Yep.
Yeah, like Marble Hornets and all that stuff.
Oh man, Marble Hornets.
Yeah, I like Marble Hornets a lot.
Listener, if you haven't seen Marble Hornets, go watch it after the podcast.
Watch it. Do it now.
So
it's great, and it's so much better than the crappy movie they made.
I am going to add an additional definition in here to go with the Grimdark. That both fiction and, by the sounds of it, Blue Shade as well might be familiar with, and that is the term grim derp, where they go so far into the grim dark side of things that it's just kind of ridiculous. Like, it goes from being dark and disturbing and kind of like harrowing to read to being just like, yeah, this is just kind of gross and like ridiculous to read about. Like, it makes no sense. Because one of the things I've always noticed about Grimdark is it's somewhat grounded. It doesn't verge super hard into horror. It doesn't verge super hard into the fantastical. It's normally at least somewhat grounded. And that means that when you run into Grimdark, it becomes a very weird contrast. A famous example from the 40k universe is known as the Demunculaba. Do not look that up. Just save yourself the trouble. Do not look that up.
Just avoid everything even slightly related to a place called Kamarog. Just don't worry about it.
Kamarog. Noted.
Yep.
Yeah, I've never heard the term grim derp before, but I definitely know what you're talking about because I have read plenty of those stories.
Now, I'm also going to say something that the writers in our little ragtag band here will be very familiar with. Not every story on fanfiction is going to be actually grim dark, even though it may be tagged as such. Because there are many creepypastas and horror stories that are tagged as grimdark, but they don't actually qualify.
Yeah, that's what I noticed.
Yeah.
They kind of just group it all together into one big thing.
I'll also note that the artists kind of run into the same issue where there's, on Derpy Brew, they will just tag just about anything as grimdark, as if there's even a little bit of gore or a little bit of like spooky anything, it just gets lumped in with grimdark and horror at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like
the end of the world.
Yeah. I feel like with a lot of people, they don't really, especially like newer writers and stuff. I see this a lot. They don't quite know the like where to draw the line between dark, grimdark, and just outright guro.
What was that last one?
They just seem to like muddle that line. Guro, so Gurro. It's basically a term meaning intense gore or grim derp. It's a more official term for it, I guess you could call it.
So cupcakes.
Yeah, cupcakes, Rainbow Factory.
Rainbow Factory is not nearly as bad. As somebody who has read both,
it still counts.
As somebody who has read both, as a former combat medic, I got nauseous reading cupcakes, and I'm not bothered by that kind of stuff. Which that is an interesting thing. Some of the early fan fictions, but I think we're going to scoot the topic forward a little bit, unless somebody had something they wanted to say.
Nope.
Going to take the resounding silence as a no. So, one thing that you thought would never mix is this fandom and all of the topics we just talked about just a second ago. What are y'all's thoughts on that? I'm not going to call anybody out, so in any particular order, what are y'all's thoughts on like why our fandom is so seemingly obsessed with taking all the cute pastel-colored horses and then shoving them into a meat grinder?
Honestly, I think that's like an innate thing, is to take something happy and then make it sad, because we've always had like that little thought in the back of our head, like, what if this happened? And then someone decided to go and make that a reality.
Yeah, that's what I often think is like just as a culture, as a species, we tend to like taking things and bringing them into the darkness. Like you can see this a lot from just like mythology and stuff too. Very rarely do you have stories that are like, and everything was happy forever. No, it has to be like something negative happening. And like everything has to be like a learning experience or someone getting their comeuppance or what have you.
So
I
go ahead.
So I just think like it's just a natural thing of human thinking to go the darker route, because that's just kind of how things go. Like one of my favorite quotes is, the more story you add to something, the darker it naturally becomes. So I just think that it just tends to be a natural way of how we think.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. It's innate.
I believe there's actually something that's fairly pertinent, and it connects to my, like what I said for my definition of grimdark, and this kind of goes with horror and creepypastas as well. The term "and they lived happily ever after" is an unrelatable term. Like, yes, there are people that want that happily ever after, but how many people can honestly say, without any caveat, they have ever reached happily ever after? And
Nobody. It's just not possible.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Which means that for people that see a story, though I will say that it's not until the end of the show that you really see an actual happily ever after type moment. It's everything's looking great and happy and fluffy. But everybody wants to see one of two things. Because I noticed that a lot of the fandom creepypastas and fandom horror stories and grimdark stories are always either let's take this to its logical conclusion, or sometimes illogical, whether it be with a character or a particular theme, or I didn't like how this ended, here's how I want to do it.
Yeah, the fixers.
The fixers, yep.
But Sophia and Stella, do you have anything you want to add to this while we are talking about it?
Not really. I don't
I was
think.
gonna.
Okay, you both spoke at once.
I think I heard a collective, nah, we good.
I'm going to assume that Fiction is right because neither of you spoke up to correct him.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm gonna actually throw a bit of a curveball. I
Oh?
think it's not necessarily because we just have that, like, dark seed or whatever. I think we do it because it is explicitly taboo. Generally speaking, we all just kind of like shy away from like the darker stuff in like everyday life. We don't like to think about like the terrible stuff. And so that's why there's a lot of like escapism and why it's so popular. And so then we get that little hint of irony and little, well, what if not? And so we take something that's like, super fluffy, super cutie, My Little Pony, and we stick it into Fallout because, man, these two just do not normally go together. It's really taboo to have, really dark things like murder and slavery in My Little Pony, but it's also taboo to have like just unnecessarily cuteness and like open tolerance and acceptance in Fallout. So that kind of taboo just like scratches our brain a little bit, I think.
Yeah. I also agree with that. I also agree with, like, I'm sure every writer in here knows that, like, it's fun and entertainment for us to torture characters.
Yeah.
Guilty as charged. Yeah, I am actually quite infamous for, like, that you've got people like Compute that'll be like, oh no, the character I made died. Meanwhile, I'm over here, oh, this is death number 4,872.
Get wrecked, Compute. I know you're watching this.
Me slowly swiveling in my chair to see my OC Midnight staring me like death stare in the corner because I just keep torturing him. I'm just like, yeah, Tuesday's appointment is coming up.
I also
hope he likes it.
To add into that just a little bit, it also allows you to explore stories that would not otherwise be possible.
Yeah.
With, say,
yeah,
a really popular one for a character that nobody can fully necessarily relate to is Twilight, actually. When she becomes an Alicorn, a popular story is that she massively outlives her friends because she's immortal now. And now everybody wants to explore that, like, what are her thoughts, what are her emotions, because one, they'd never be able to actually explore that necessarily. Like, yeah, you may outlive one or two of your friends, but you're almost guaranteed to have made a friend with somebody that's going to outlive you by a long shot. But she's not. And the only two that might be able to are Luna and Celestia.
We got our missing guy here.
Oh, is that a Matsu?
Matsu's got his hand raised.
I saw it bounce. Matsu, speak.
He's here.
It's bouncing like you're speaking, but you are not speaking.
Speak, darn you! Ah!
Matsu, speak louder.
Ah!
I could see it
I
wiggling
think
and
Arnold
lighting up.
Schwarzenegger killed Matsu and took his place.
Matsu, you may need to reconnect. Oh, there we are.
Oh.
There you go. You should be...
Does
Can
it
we-
work now?
Yes.
Oh, thank God.
Matsu!
Okay, before
I
we-
deeply apologize for my late arrival. It turns out the greatest horror of all is adult responsibilities.
Oh, God, yes. Before we continue, introduce everybody who you are, what you do, and what you love about Grimdark horror or creepypastas or all of the above.
Hello there, I am Matsu. I do some amateurish writing, and a common thing that I do actually is write grimdark and dark fantasy and all that stuff. It really fascinates me, especially grimdark, considering I think it's not something that goes that much into the extreme. I think it's more of a morally gray thing, like kind of leaning into awaken a sense of apathy for the characters and like hopelessness to the world itself. There's no limitation of like good things happening there. Good things can happen, bad things can happen, but the overall theme is pretty gray. That's why I would call grimdark not even like a genre. It's more like a theme that you use alongside other genres like horror. And horror is something that is supposed to awaken a sense of disgust or fear, or more like repulse in general. Like disgust and fear, those two go pretty well together. Let's look at body horror over there. But yeah, and creepypastas. Those are pretty, I wouldn't say pretty cheap, more like they were very much overused, but like they are very interesting as a kind of like urban legend type of story. Like supposed to scare you, give you like a sense of possibility, like, oh, this could happen to you. Maybe you get like a message that something's gonna happen to you. Maybe you receive a game yourself, like those haunted games and stuff like that. But yeah, definitely something that I don't read very much, creepypastas, but I do think they are pretty entertaining.
Okay.
Entertaining how bad they are.
I'm actually going to rebut a bit of what you said, though, about Grimdark.
Pokemon Black.
I do consider it its own genre, but just like any other genre, it can be mixed with other genres very easily. In fact, comedy and horror too that you see that people will mix
absolutely.
specifically because of the weird contrast and the fact that they shouldn't go together. So Grimdark in horror is a very easy one, since Grimdark is all about things like dystopia and often has lots of violence in it. But there is such a thing as grimdark themes, where they don't use the whole genre, but you still have the dark leaning and empiric victories that are characteristic of grimdark. But now that we've reintroduced Matsu into the stream officially, I think now is a good time to talk about some of the most famous stories within our fandom, and some of the ups and downs, pros and cons of like their existence and like writing, because it's a little more difficult to point to. Like, there are some musicians you can point to their work and go, they do darker themes.
Me.
Yeah, I was about to say a lot of the
Blaze.
Yeah, Black and Blue would be another one. Actually, he's the one who did the intro for the podcasts and for Heart of Darkness, my other campaign. So it's a lot more easy to see in some of those. There are some artists that will very easily depict grimdark themes, but in my opinion, animation and writing have a unique ability to spread that out in such a way that there's more to talk about. Especially since I am not an artist and I am very bad about talking about art. And if you put horror and grimdark art in front of me, I'm going to point at both of them and say, these are horror, right? I will be that meme of the corporate needs you to tell the difference between these pictures, and I go, they're the same picture.
Bruh.
You're Pam from The Office.
Nameless is Pam confirmed.
Anyways. So...
Can we get fan art of that? Thanks.
God, please no.
Yes, do it. Someone do it.
Someone get on that.
So, I think right off the bat, 3 of the most famous stories that have come out of grimdark and horror, creepypasta, whichever one you want to choose, are Cupcakes, Fallout Equestria, and The Rainbow Factory. By show of hands, who has actually read one, if not all of these?
Me.
I've read all 3.
Funnily
read
enough,
2 of them.
Cupcakes is the thing that actually introduced me to the fandom, so...
I am so
Literally
sorry.
It's literally the first interaction I had with the MLP fandom.
No!
Mine was with Mr. Davey.
Yup.
Actually, not gonna lie, it was Mr. Davies' animations and Discord was my first real interaction with the fandom.
Mine was
I do not
Google
remember
Plus.
what my first interaction with the fandom was.
But Stella, have you delved into any of these stories?
The only one I haven't read or seen is Fallout Equestria.
You know, that one surprises me.
Yeah.
That
I've tried.
For shame.
I keep forgetting.
No, sorry.
But so we're gonna take a look at Cupcakes first.
Yay!
Because I know that we'll be here all night if I start with Fallout Equestria.
Yup.
So, in y'all's opinions, I'm gonna ask this first because I know what I am 100% convinced it is. But in y'all's opinions, what genre would you say that? Because it's often called a creepypasta, it's often called grimdark, it's called horror. Which would you say that it falls under? And we'll do it one at a time. And since Matsu hasn't been here for so long, Matsu, you get to go first.
Oh man, that's absolutely very horror. Couldn't be further away from it. Especially the part what I said that horror is something that tries to awaken a sense of repulse, and I talked about how disgust and fear go very well together, and I think Cupcakes is a good example of that. Most of what it awakens in you is incredible disgust. So it does a really good job of making you not want to look at it anymore, but still you still read it.
Okay.
Kind of like a pimple popping video.
Oh God, that's just gross. Why'd you have to say
Why'd you
that?
have to do that?
You're not wrong, though.
Yep, that's a body horror for you.
So at the other end of the lineup, Stella, what do you think?
Most definitely horror, because I don't even consider it creepypasta or grimdark. It's horror,
Okay,
in my personal opinion.
Sophia.
I would have to say horror as well because it just goes deep. I've heard lots of people say it went too deep for them or it's just way too gory that doesn't make it interesting. Sometimes I've heard people say because of just all the gore in it. So definitely horror.
Okay, Blue.
Yeah, I think as fiction said, I think Cupcakes is straight up a Guro story because the violence is depicted in graphic detail and it's very, very hard to read and also hard to look away from. One thing I like to compare it to is the 1999 Japanese movie Audition. I don't know if any people have heard of that here, but it's kind of a similar concept where it's a torture of a person depicted in graphic detail.
Ow. Don't mind me, I'm just kneeing my desk. Okay. Nashi.
So yeah, when it comes to Cupcakes, I'm definitely just gonna go horror, not grimdark, because like the world itself is still equestrian. It's just Pinky's a psycho in it. So I more equate it to something like Friday the 13th or Halloween,
Kind
where
of
it's just
a
like
perversion
just-
of something.
yeah, where it's just like a corruption of a thing rather than it being like a full-on grimdark world that's been made or anything like that. Like other than Pinky and Rainbow Dash and I guess any of Pinky's other victims, it doesn't really stretch out beyond Pinky.
Yeah, it's a dark scenario in a very normal world.
Yeah, so yeah, that's one reason why I call it horror rather than grimdark. Like, sure, it's dark, but it's not grim enough to actually be considered grimdark. So yeah, I am comfortably in the camp where it's just horror.
Okay. And fiction.
Yeah, I've already had my well, I was gonna say basically spoiled. Yeah, Cupcakes is a Guro horror to like the nth degree, in my opinion. I absolutely despise reading it.
Yeah, you get it.
And I'll have to agree with you too. Now that I know it, the term for that type of work, it is definitely the Guro horror. It revels in the amount of pain and torture it inflicts on the character of Rainbow Dash, while perversely twisting the character of Pinkie Pie. And like Nashi said, it definitely does its best to emphasize the fact that the rest of the world's all normal, peachy, and none of them realize what's going on behind the scenes. So it is definitely one of those that I would agree is very much horror and the particular subgenre of Guro, as fiction called it. Next step in this question is, why do you guys think it got so big? Like, it is one of the 3 biggest fics that our fandom is known for. Even outside of the fandom, before I joined as a brony, I knew about Cupcakes and Rainbow Factory. Why do you guys think that is?
I think it's just because it's so offensively disgusting and attention-grabbing that it got immensely popular due to that reason, and yeah, pretty much that.
Yeah, just like how a lot of creepypastas got very famous.
Yeah, like I was gonna say the same thing, but also combine it with the fact that like it was My Little Pony, and it was like one of the first things that came out of the fandom. So like a lot of people probably didn't even know that Friendship is Magic was a thing yet. So they saw it and they're like, "This is out of the blue," because like no one did anything with My Little Pony before. So it was a combination by like how shocking and disgusting it is, but also just like, where is this My Little Pony thing coming from all of a sudden?
Yeah, but the thing,
Yeah,
I
didn't
think
like
it's really
Cupcakes come out in like the middle of season 2 or something like
No,
that?
it came out during season 1. It ironically predates Party of One. Like people go like, "Oh yeah, someone saw Party of One and wrote this," but no, it actually was written before Party of One aired.
Damn!
didn't actually
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
What,
I
did
think-
they take inspiration from that?
That would
I'm just gonna say that they took inspiration from cupcakes and then use that to write Party of One because there's no way.
I mean, that's definitely a thought. Well, I guess that's one we will never know the answer to.
I think what you said about like the combination part, I think it fits really well. Like creepypastas, horror stuff, they're supposed to scare you. And I think when you take something, a lot of creepypastas do that. When you take something that is well known for bringing joy, and oh, I feel safe watching this, you distort it into something that can hurt you and that scares you. It pretty much increases the shock value like tenfold.
Yeah.
So here's a question that applies to this. How many of you think that Mr. Davies' Cupcakes HD massively attributed to that fame? Because that is a animation that is often connected with that because it's basically following the story of it in a very short form kind of manner.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
boy.
definitely a proponent of the theory that Mr. Davy, he cracked his knuckles and made it explode even further.
Yeah, I agree with that. Especially because I think a YouTube video is a media that can reach more people than an actual story like a real fic. So I think when he turned into a heck, I didn't even know it was actually based off a fic when I watched it for the first time. I was like, oh, that's just
Same.
a video. I didn't know it was actually inspired by something else. So actually, it really helped to bring attention to cupcakes, especially for people who weren't already fans of MLP.
I feel like there's another series. Go ahead, Stella. You had something to say?
Just gonna say, I think they definitely basically put alcohol onto fire when they made that video.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Good
absolutely.
metaphor.
Yeah.
Put some shine on it.
There's actually another series that, from what I have seen, has garnered a lot of attention towards the fandom that is also known for its darker themes, though it is much more humor-based series, if you've ever heard of the Mauve series.
Oh yeah, the Dot Mob.
yeah,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I am very familiar with them.
I
diggity
heart
demon.
Mauve.
I told you to stay out of my shed.
Shit.
Crush,
So-
kill, destroy, swag.
I love that the official voice actress of Fluttershy during a convention said, "Stay out of my shed."
Yes,
Yeah.
that was amazing.
that.
Thank you, Andrea Lippman.
So with that one, I think that one is not so much horror, though it does have a couple of creepypasta-esque moments. It's more of what's known as dark comedy or dark humor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's more like
definitely.
kind of like a Meat Canyon video. It makes you feel more uncomfortable than scared.
Yeah, like the art style
Dot
even reminds me of
Mauve.
Meat Canyon a little bit.
Yeah.
Mauve walked so Meat Canyon could run. I'm saying
Yup.
it right here and right now.
Yup.
And then another one that so this video is also by Mr. Davy. How many of you have seen Smile HD?
Oh,
Yes,
no,
absolutely.
That's the video that
I
got
am
me.
very familiar with it, but I've
Uh,
never watched it.
No, I've seen this one right after Cupcakes. So second.
I
into,
I
remember-
watched it, and I was never able to
Pulling-
recover my. I was never able to recover that few minutes of my life that I just wasted.
Yeah, I remember before I even joined Google Plus and the fandom and all that stuff. The only thing that I had watched was a single or 2 episodes of the show with my little cousin while I was babysitting her. I was 11 at the time when I saw the show for the first time. And then in middle school, I remember getting recommended on YouTube Smile HD and showing all my friends because of how gory it was.
So how many of you that ran across it as kids didn't actually read the warning at the beginning?
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't actually speak English at that time. So.
Oh
Yeah.
no!
Oh God! So I
Got him.
This would concern me
young.
if I knew how to read.
Yup.
what was that still?
That time can't stop me. I can't read.
Pretty much that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally.
What were you saying, Stella?
Oh, I found the video when I was young, and young tiny me went, I'm not gonna look at the warning. What the heck am I watching?
Yeah, I definitely.
Funnily enough,
It's
Go ahead.
child brain.
Yeah.
funnily enough, like the first time I watched this as a dumb little kid, instead of being absolutely traumatized by it and realized, oh, but I don't want to watch this anymore, I was freaking mesmerized by it. I
Yeah.
think this speaks volumes.
Yeah, because this one I actually want to talk a little more in depth on. I feel like a lot of what he managed to do with it was because, one, it is very, like, the original is extremely close to the show style. To the point where,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I remember the very first time I saw it, I turned the video on, looked away, so I didn't see the warning, and when I looked back and I just saw the ponies running, I was like, oh, this is cute, I guess. And then the roundhouse kick that comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that the shock value from that for a lot of people was just a hook. And they're just like, there you got the ones that are horrified and the ones that are like mesmerized because of the fact that it was such a massive 180.
Little kid's first bait
Yeah.
and switch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is so, like, even today I can go back to it and be like, holy shit, this is so close to like the actual art style and stuff.
Yeah, for
I-
Cupcakes, the way it's animated, the way the faces distort a lot, it goes pretty considerable. Like, it's pretty considerably different from the show's art style. Meanwhile, Smile is very, very
Yeah.
close.
Yeah, and with Cupcakes HD, there's a lot more. Something about it felt off when you initially started the video. Like it's the slight departure from the art style, and it's just like at that point, most people had seen Smile HD and realized who Mr. Davy was. So seeing that video, they immediately go, "Oh God, what's about to happen?"
Yeah. Like,
Yep.
oh, it's him again.
Yeah.
Mr. Davy 2, Electric Boogaloo.
But to bring it kind of back towards so we're going to talk about we kind of divulged off of Cupcakes there for Cupcakes HD, Smile HD, and Dot Mauve, which now that I'm thinking about it, there isn't as much, unless you count like creepypasta and fanfic readings, there isn't as much animation wise that's horror, grimdark, or whatnot.
Mm.
Now that I think about it, it may be because of the sanitization of YouTube and other platforms that you don't find.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah.
Fucking sucks with their content filters and things like that.
yeah.
Mhm.
But I know artists spend a lot of time. Like there was an artist that I remember seeing that would do like speed paints, which I always found myself like, yeah, the music was cool, but I want to see the finished picture. So there's some very interesting and wildly graphic art out there of things like, Cupcakes and Rainbow Factory, which it's kind of funny how clinically like cleaned up some of the Rainbow Factory stuff can look, but one that I've noticed that artists seem to just be in love with is what was it? My Little Amnesia. If
Yeah.
Sounds
Yeah.
familiar. I might have read it at some point.
I remember watching PewDiePie play that mod.
damn true.
See, I've
Oh.
never
Oh, it's an
actually,
interesting-
I've never actually found like the base thing that it stemmed from. But everybody seems to really like drawing Fluttershy and occasionally Rainbow Dash. None of the other ones. Twilight like is just scared looking throughout the entirety of that story, from what I can tell. So you occasionally get scared Twilight, but if you look up My Little Amnesia, there's all kinds of fucked up Fluttershys and the occasional Rainbow Dash.
Oh,
Because
boy.
I believe Twy was the main character, so she wasn't any of like the morphed monsters like the others.
Mhm.
Yeah. Twy takes the place of Daniel from Amnesia: The Dark Descent.
Which I actually ended up adapting some of that for a portion of Heart of Darkness, if anybody's ever interested in checking that out.
Ooh.
Shameless plug aside.
I'm plugging yourself, nameless.
It is my channel. I get to plug whatever I want. Anyways.
To balance him, go play Amnesia. It's a good game.
Go to Blade Catcher Recordings and get my latest album.
But with a lot of the artists, though, like I said, you can convey a lot with art, but it doesn't have the same slow burn as an animation or an actual like story. Because you have to, and the artists can correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to catch the reader's eye and then like draw them in as quickly as possible. Whereas with, say, Rainbow Factory, there's a good portion of the start of Rainbow Factory that is nothing to do with the Rainbow Factory until later. It starts to drop hints of what's going on, and then it hits you full force, like a brick to the face.
Mm-hmm.
Any of the artists want to chime in? I'm trying to include art in this, and I'm very bad about talking with art.
Same.
Well, I mean, I could technically add something even though I do it in music form.
Are you talking about adding something to art or to music?
I don't really know. It's just I had a thing for a while where I would try to turn grimdark stories and these kind of things into music and try to like make it a story song, you know?
I mean, just think about one of the most popular songs in the fandom that honestly probably got a lot of people into the fandom with Rainbow Factory. The Living Tombstones.
Might be like the original Rainbow Factory song by Wooden Toaster.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was Wooden Toaster, not Living. I can't believe I forgot that was a Wooden Toasters. But yeah,
I know that's where a roll song. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then don't forget its sequel that also did super well that like no one talks about for some reason.
Pegasus Device?
With Hate Seed.
Oh, Awoken.
Awoken.
There's actually, I know of 3 separate songs. Pegasus Device is a third one, but I believe that one, to my knowledge, is by Sylphstorm? Sylphstorm? I don't remember for sure.
I think.
But yeah, I feel like because of the fact that with I almost said Pegasus Factory, with Rainbow Factory, there is more. It's more accessible than, say, Cupcakes, because there is some depictions of gore and violence, but like it is not nearly as drawn out as Cupcakes.
That's why I believe Rainbow Factory is a bit more grimdark aligned than like Cupcakes, because it starts off in this kind of like dystopian picture of a Pegasus master race. Unless I just got that totally wrong.
Yeah.
It's more like they're practicing eugenics. I would
Yeah.
say.
So for those of you that haven't looked into it, it's basically the idea is that if a Pegasus can't fly, they are repurposed as the colors of the rainbow in the most violent fashion.
Yeah, that's the part I remember. It's just
Yeah.
I couldn't remember the beginning for the life of me.
It's Scootaloo failing her flight test.
But like the way
Yeah.
it's implied that this always happens, it kind of gives me more like a little bit of world building, so it's less out of place than cupcakes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
played off as more of a dark secret of
Yeah,
the Pegasi, and that all of the Pegasi are technically in on it. It's just they don't tell the rest of them. So it's a much more broad, wide sweeping, systemic kind of issue rather than just a one crazy pony.
Yep, it's a lot more believable in general.
Oh,
Yeah.
I need some weed after this.
I still remember when I first heard about that outside of the fandom. I was like, "Oh God, what kind of stories does this show have?" Because I legitimately, like, without having read the fanfic, just seeing the stuff for it, I was like, "That's part of the show."
If you want to believe so.
Okay, Sophia and Stella, would you like to add anything in on that before we?
That's okay.
What's up? Did you both start talking at the same time again?
I don't think what makes
Hope you're breaking up.
did we?
You-
Sally, you
you-
can go first.
We're losing them.
No, that I was good.
Okay. What about you, Sophia?
What?
She said she was fine.
I also think what kind of classifies Rainbow Factory as more of a grimdark is that it's also spread out between stories as well. Because I do know that there's at least 5 different all written by most of them written by Aurora Dawn of the story of the Rainbow Factory. The ones that I know is Pegasus Device, Rainbow Factory, and Rainbow's Factory are all ones that have just continued on in the story.
I knew about 2 of those.
I feel like that's kind of classified.
I mean, I will say that there. I believe. I'd like to say Cupcakes has like essentially an extended universe.
Yeah, it basically does.
So
Yeah.
I would still classify it as horror though, rather than grimdark.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
especially since it's. Go ahead, Stella.
I think the difference with Cupcakes and Rainbow Factory when it comes to Cupcakes being horror and Rainbow Factory being more of a grimdark is for Rainbow Factory, you follow a whole story to get to the gore, and the gore has a reason, a background, and it's there to scare you, it's there to be dark, but it's not only the gore, if that makes sense. Like, there's a good story. It feels more like a horror movie you would find or something. And for Cupcakes, it is torture. It is blood, guts, torture with some background. It's a twist. I think that's what makes it different.
Like, you mean like it's Rainbow Factory is a bit more creative with it?
Yeah, Rainbow Factory is a bit more creative.
I
think that Cupcakes is meant to make you feel scare you, if that makes sense.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's more creative. It's just it gives it more moderation. Like, it's not all blood, guts, gore, and torture. Whereas
cupcakes go for more of that shock value.
yeah, because
Yeah.
Cupcakes almost like there's very little setup before we're in the basement. And then we spend essentially the rest of the fic painstakingly going over what happens in that basement. So it's also like very exhausting for a reader. So as a writer, one of the things you have to worry about is like wearing out your reader, and where Rainbow Factory has moments where the reader can kind of catch their breath at least a little bit, just enough to keep them from being worn down by the fic. The Cupcakes fanfic is more of like a war of attrition on the reader. They are there to exhaust you, wear you out, and disgust you, make you feel numb by the end of it.
It's pretty much trying to see how far can you go.
Boom, bam, Bob, take this, you scrub.
Yep.
Which this may or may not be a controversial opinion, but Cupcakes is very poorly written.
Oh yes, it is.
Oh, very much.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think that's an unpopular opinion at all.
I don't know. I feel like there's somebody out there that will fight me to the death for it. But yeah,
they're probably
the bad writing.
I mean, it's certainly fascinating.
I think the only reason why Cupcakes got so popular was more or less because it was the first of its kind. And that's the only reason why it's up there in popularity.
Yeah, that's another thing that
or at least the first of its kind who got a lot of recognition.
Yeah, it was the first thing to be that bad.
And it kind of stood its own way out in a crowd that was trying to play it safer. And essentially my understanding is that one and Little Miss Rarity also get very, what's a YouTube safe word for this? Erotic? Can I say that one?
Inappropriate.
Yeah.
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 Little Miss Rarity especially.
Yeah, both of those have very not safe for anybody type stuff.
Demonetized.
I remember following that in real time on Tumblr.
We're all getting demonetized here.
Not
tonight.
safe for life.
Yeah, both of those, and it's less so the initial startup with Cupcakes and more the extended stories that I've heard about. And there's apparently branching canons, and it's just that one turns into a mess because they were popular once.
Yeah.
Whereas Little Miss Rarity is the now well-known Tumblr Ask Blog format, which is also one of the biggest. Once you mention like the first two Cupcakes and Rainbow Factory, Little Miss Rarity is normally one of the ones that follows up after that. And then you've got
it's like the third of the Trinity.
Yeah. Then you normally get either Apple Eyes or the Apple Sleep Experiment, depending on which the person's read. Which
oh goodness, the Apple Sleep Experiment.
So I don't know what you guys think about it, but I find it as a very fascinating story. Interesting concept, not the best execution. I feel like they could have done a bit more with it, especially since the story just ends with lack of a better way to say it, just throw the problem in a hole and bury it.
Yeah.
And
I listened to an audio reading of the Apple Sleep Experiment. That was a trip. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Personally.
Was it by the lost narrator?
That's the name right there. I was forgetting.
Yeah, I listened to that one too. She did a great job with it.
Yeah.
It's funny that she's actually one of the The Lost Nerd is one of the ones that everybody knows the name of if they enjoy grimdark, creepypasta, or horror, because she's one of the few out there that's her main deal. She's also got some
Yeah.
interesting songs too.
Yeah, it's either Lost or it's Scribbler. Those are the two that come to mind.
I love Scribbler too.
British.
Used to also be what's it called? Crazed Rambler. God bless his soul. I don't know what the hell happened to him.
Yeah, potentially it's just one of those that just kind of moved on after a while.
Yeah, that's what I assume.
Now we're going to shift gears a little bit to a slightly better written fic. So I know about 3 of you are probably going to want to talk lots about this, but we already had an entire episode specifically about it, so we're not going to go too in depth on it. But
What is
Fallout
it?
Equestria.
Yeah, and I was on it. Check it out.
Oh, fuck me. I'm gonna
Oh,
need
lovely.
more weed.
Fallout Equestria is
Too
one of the
long.
most popular. If you think that one's too long, go read Project Horizons.
That's what I'm saying. Project Horizons is.
Yeah.
I'm not
Hold on,
gonna
let me get
swear.
my physical version of Fallout Equestria real quick.
I actually have one sitting on my printer right now. It's actually not that bad of a size.
Mine's on my desk, and it's not that bad.
But yeah, the Fallout Equestria fanfic is probably something that for a lot of fans is the first thing that they ran into. If they didn't run into like the likes of the various creepypastas, whether it be the 2 big names or the 3 big names, or one of the lesser known ones, they probably tripped over Fallout Equestria because you can't go anywhere Fallout without tripping over the likes of Little Pip or trying to think of who else. It's normally Blackjack, isn't it? Yeah. But yeah.
Steel Hooves as well.
Yes,
a lot.
Well,
Velvet Remedy.
I feel like Velvet Remedy doesn't show up nearly as much as Steel Hooves or some other member of the. I forget what they call them now. The
Wastelanders.
No, the specifically the Brotherhood of Steel, but pony.
Oh,
Steel Rangers?
Steel Rangers.
Yeah, there we go.
Steel Rangers or Applejack Rangers.
Either one, you go looking for Fallout stuff, and you're bound to trip over at least one of them. So, I feel like it's another one that would introduce the idea of grimdark pony stories to fans, and then introduced the fandom to non-fans. Interestingly enough, it is, I think, at this point considered its own franchise. Jesus Christ, I cannot speak tonight. But
yeah, it's pretty much a fandom within a fandom.
Yeah,
fandomception.
But like I said, we've already done an entire episode specifically on that. Franchise, honestly, because we covered all of the different ones that we could think of. But yeah,
all the major ones.
We're not going to get too in depth on that one. So I think we're actually probably going to call this a shorter episode for tonight. Anybody have any closing thoughts they would like to share?
I kind
of
want to say something about like Fallout Equestria, at least how I feel about it. In a sense, like I don't know if it makes sense. Like when I read Fallout Equestria and then when I play Fallout, for some reason that's in my mind, but like for some reason Fallout Equestria feels more grimdark for me. It's probably because like regular Fallout, you know most stuff that actually happened there was due to hate and greed and war, regular stuff, things that we are already familiar with, human beings being evil. Meanwhile, you have followed a question there with ponies, they most of the bad things that happen, I'm not saying all bad things, but like Cat wrote a story like in a sense that it's actually pretty believable how the ponies went from good to bad. And it's a pretty sad thing because most of it was actually from good intention acts being completely backfiring. You know what I mean?
So I'm actually gonna somewhat disagree. A lot of the grimdark from Fallout actually comes from the background. You got your masters and things like that, but do you ever actually look into a lot of like what the vaults are, like what they wanted to do with them, or like a lot of this kind of experimentation that went into creating the FEV virus? I just said virus. If you look into a lot of the like background lore, that's where the grimdark lies.
Yeah.
But
I'm not
most
talking about like how the and the surface level of the story, like what you play, like without actually looking that much far into it. Because when you're reading a fic, you can't really skip unless you just don't read a chapter. Meanwhile, if you can play Fallout and not read any of the terminals,
yeah,
I would also say that that's a failing on Bethesda's part, because they create a grimdark kind of setting, and then because they don't want to scare off gamers, they don't do what, say, Metro does, where it's just like miserable and horrible all the time. They're like more of a Fallout adjacent type thing, where it's like everything's gone bad, but now it's getting better, and that's what you see. You don't see the worst that it has to offer unless you go digging. And honestly, this is going to be a slight bit of a rant, but a lot of studios that have grimdark settings will do the same thing, where they will tell a story that is happier than what is most people would consider grimdark. I'm also going to say that there's a bit of desensitization towards like human characters, honestly, and you have to try a bit harder to get the grimdark to really hit, because there's also there's a lot of stuff, especially I'm thinking Fallout New Vegas and the original two Fallouts probably showcase it a lot better. It's the Bethesda Fallouts of 3 and 4 where most players jump in on that they don't get as much out of it, or 76. Everybody in 76 is more focused on the fact that, oh god, the Mothman just exited the atmosphere at Mach 30.
Yeah, we don't talk about 76.
Yeah.
Or Brotherhood of Steel.
That's not a Fallout game. What are you talking about?
I've never actually interacted with that one at all, or Tactics, so I can't really say much. But the
Tactics is fine, and I will fight everyone over that. I'll see you outside of Denny's.
Brotherhood of Steel is just a regular game with a Fallout skin.
It's a top-down shooter.
With the Master, that is a very overt example of grimdark storytelling. Whereas, you've got kind of darker themes in some of the others, but it's not until you sit down and think about it that it's like, oh wow, this is fucked.
I don't think that is necessarily a bad thing.
Well, I'm not saying it's necessarily...
I think that is a perfectly fine thing to have.
I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing. It's, if you are trying to tell a grimdark story, it is. But both Fallout 2 and... Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 aren't necessarily telling grimdark stories. They're kind of more telling, in my opinion, redemption-style stories.
I would argue and say that none of the Fallouts tell Grimdark stories.
It's
So
actually, yeah, no, I would agree. They've got a
Yeah.
grimdark world and grimdark themes, but they're not telling grimdark stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the world is definitely probably on the lighter end overall of Grimdark, but I would say none of the stories are exactly that.
Well,
You
yeah, they're
mentioned
not.
Metro earlier, and Metro is really funny because it's a Slavic fiction that isn't utterly depressing. The main theme is like hope.
Yeah, it's a very grimdark setting. I've never actually finished Metro because the one time that I did try to play it, it crashed my computer. Like, completely crashed my computer because I did not have the hardware for it. And before that, I attempted it on PlayStation and then don't remember why I never finished it. But yeah, what I remember of it was very grimdark. So that may be just because I didn't finish. I never got out of the tunnels.
Yeah, so spoiler warning for Metro 2033. Yeah, it's an old game. You should have already played it. You really should right now. So you end up nuking an entire race into basically non-existence, known as the Dark Ones. These very tall Enderman-looking guys who can pretty much give you visions and can go invisible and all this stuff. But the ending, the canon ending, I should say, because there are multiple endings to every Metro game. Artyom reflects saying that it basically has realized that he's made a giant mistake and that this is like a terrible thing that he has done. However, the entire
figure genocide is bad.
of it is
Genocide bad. Gabuga.
especially because throughout the story, Artyom is one of the few people who can like connect with the Dark Ones almost. It's a very like enigmatic way of doing it, and they build on more in Last Light, and the games heavily go off the rails from the books. So
Kind of like this conversation.
I can't exactly say on the books. I'm just talking about that. Yeah. But the entirety of Metro 2033 is underlined with the fact that with this happening, there is a greater hope for everyone else to survive because the Dark Ones have been a genuine threat.
On that note, bringing the conversation back to the fandom, technically speaking, with even though it ends in a very grimdark way with the Empiric victory, Fallout Equestrian isn't actually as grimdark as a lot of people would give it credit for, because it's still a happy ending, whereas the Empiric victory is normally much more, we're still in the status quo. But if you look around the plight of Little Pip, the world gets very much better.
Oh, yeah.
Very fast.
Very much so.
It's just everything that leads up to that is generally considered very grimdark. Which is why it's given the, attributed with being a grimdark story. My argument with that, though, is that despite the fact that it does not 100% fit the idea of grimdark, I don't think that it would be anywhere near as popular if a true grimdark ending had happened.
Yeah, I'd agree there, actually.
I completely agree.
Because people like a more realistic ending, but they don't like depression, for lack of a better way to say it. If you read a story and you finish it, and it finishes in such a way that it makes you want to cry afterwards and not in a good way, then yeah, people are not going to enjoy that as much. There's going to be a very small group of hardcore fans still, but it's not going to have the wide-reaching popularity that it does now.
Yeah, I guess in the end,
Unless you're
even for
Slavic.
Grimdark, even for like Grimdark stories, a lot of people who get attached to the characters, they want to see them thrive and succeed, even with a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is why I think Project Horizons did not do nearly as well as Fallout Equestria itself, because of how many characters end up dying in quite
And everyone
abrupt
dies at
ways.
the end.
Yeah. And it's all quite abrupt, and there's no build up to it that feels proper. It feels very rushed. Had they taken the time to like properly pay out like what they had been building, then I feel like it would have gone over a lot better. But it's also very difficult when you spend more time trying to keep track of your own story than actually finishing a story. Yes, I am making jabs at Somber. One day I might have him on here so I can make jabs at his face. That would
Make
be
those jabs at the
Called out.
1.7 million word fic.
That would be something that'd be really fun to do at some point, is get Somber. I don't know if the writer of Fallout Equestria actually is still in the fandom or would be willing to do it, but like get those two and then a bunch of other Fallout Equestria fanfic writers just to all just see the chaos that happens. But
I think my brain would explode.
Yeah. I know KCat is still in the fandom, but they have gone to like extreme lengths to keep their anonymous status. Like, I know they've done at least one interview, but it was over like text only, I think.
Gotta keep the mystique.
Being very ambiguous.
I know they are very secretive. That's all that I like know about KCat.
Damn. So I won't be that lucky. But any of y'all have any questions in the audience? I didn't see any major ones move past. Yeah, no, I'm not seeing any actual questions. Well, if you're in the audience, you have some questions, you feel free to post them. I also have noticed now that sometimes the guests have questions. So is that true this time? Or yes, no, maybe so?
I may.
No questions here?
I may have one.
No, I'm good.
Nope.
Sophia, Stella, questions for the rest of the guests?
No. I don't think so.
Okay, Fiction, did you have a question?
Yes. So, everyone, what is your favorite grimdark / horror / creepypasta? Pick one or answer all three. Story or tale, whether or not it pertains to the fandom.
Can it be a game?
Ooh.
Go for it.
Darkest Dungeon.
Oh, that's a pretty good pick, actually.
Yeah, that's a quality pick.
Yeah.
Okay. Fiction,
The
while
trees are
everybody else.
screaming.
The trees are.
My favorite is a story called "The Trees Are Screaming." It's an MLP Grimdark creepypasta thing. It's written by a dude named Reluctant Brohoof, and it inspired me to write my first Everfree Forest Incident song.
The trees are screaming. I'll have to remember that.
It's a story about, spoilers ahead for anyone in the audience, I guess. It's about the Cutie Mark Crusaders. They go into the Everfree Forest trying to find Winona, and the forest brutally murders them all.
Well then.
Lovely.
Lovely.
It's great.
Beautiful.
Fun.
Sophia, you got an answer?
Depending on if we're just like talking about like just general fanfics and stuff like that, I'd have to say that I'm very biased for this opinion because I have a friend that really likes it, but Rainbow Factory is one that's really up there. But I also really like Something Sweet to Bite.
Mm-hmm.
I like that one
I haven't
too.
heard that in a while.
If we're talking about horror just in general, I like the movie series Fear Street. But yeah.
Okay. Nashi.
Oh, I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's a game that I played a long time ago, like years ago. I'm trying to remember it.
Ooh, what's it about?
So it doesn't start off as like horror or anything like that. Like it doesn't seem like that would be at all. Like it's a little unsettling, but like it's literally like it's almost like a clicker game almost, but you're buying things to burn in a fire and you're being paid to burn.
Little fireplace.
And
I believe that's what it's called.
fireplace.
No, I
Yeah.
think it's called Little Fireplace.
Yeah, little fireplace, and you're buying things that you are then paid to burn.
Oh wait,
And
do you mean
then,
Little
like-
Inferno?
Oh, is it Little Inferno?
It's Little Inferno. It's Little
Yeah.
Inferno.
Oh,
Little
okay.
Inferno.
Inferno!
Because like
Little
it's
Inferno.
because like it's very subtle, but like once you burn like the most expensive thing, you get the ending, and you like and it pulls out of your house.
Yeah.
And and it turns out you are in a world that is basically dead. Like you have like it has been so polluted that the sun can't like appear anymore, and you are literally being paid to burn things because that's just how the world is, how like your city is powered now.
It
Damn.
prevents you from freezing to death.
Damn.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Nasty.
So yeah, it's
Mm.
like that. It is set in a world that I would say is grimdark, but it's very subtle about it. Up until the
Oh, yeah, that's
reveal at
cool.
the end, and that's what makes me love it.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it's subtle, but it is less in your face than, say, something like Warhammer 40k.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially
Which,
because the gameplay.
if we're
distracts you a
comparing
lot,
the
which
two,
is,
then I
part of
guess
the
it would
story.
be.
Oh god, Nameless, you...
Oh geez,
Yeah,
that
my
was
nameless
super
suit.
robot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Am I good?
Yes,
You are
you're good
now.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Stella, it's your turn. I don't believe you had a turn yet.
Oh, mine would definitely be Rocket to Insanity.
I've actually heard of that one. I don't think I've read it, but I've heard of that one. That's the that's
It was one of the
normally
first ones.
yeah, it's normally one of the ones that
Reverse.
pops up with Rainbow Factory as like one of the more popular fanfics for horror related stuff that popped up in that time period.
Yeah, Rocket to Insanity is a good one.
Rocket to Insanity is just Rainbow Factory reverse. Instead of Pinky killing Rainbow, it's Rainbow killing Pinky.
Yeah.
Cupcakes, not rainbow.
Oh wait, I actually just got reminded of a thing that I really like.
Go for it.
It's called Diary of a Time Looper. It's a fic about Twilight,
Hell yeah!
and she gets stuck in a time loop. She has no idea how, and like we're just like it is in the form of her journal, so we just see what happens to her in like little snippets of like her summary every day, and it just gets slowly worse because like it is a really realistic depiction of what would happen to someone if they were reenacting the same day over and over and over again and were conscious of it. Like unlike something like Groundhog Day where like yeah, there's a level of panic to it, but it's also like kind of an adventure. Twilight just slowly starts going insane. Like like how like she starts making mention of how if like if I hear Rarity say that same thing again one more time, I'm going to, and then it cuts, and then she cuts herself off, like that kind of thing.
And then it just ends with "I woke up."
Yep.
YouTube doesn't like that word, so I can't say it.
But yeah, because her going to sleep at the end of the day is the trigger for the loop. So, just the last 10 journal entries of the fic is just her right over and over again writing, "I woke up, I woke up, I woke up."
And if you understand why, then it's really bad.
Yep.
Okay. Fiction, you ask the question, you get to answer it, and then I'll answer it with mine.
Alright. So for Grimdark, I would probably have to just go with Fallout Equestria purely because that is the reason why I write fics. I'm an FOE writer. FOE got me into this, so I just kind of had to pay it that respect. Horror-wise, I'm gonna have to pull Matsu and bring out some games. I would have to say Amnesia: The Dark Descent, or have to go real old school and say Slender: The 8 Pages.
Yeah!
And then
Oh yes.
Yeah.
and then for creepypasta, I have to go with Slender or Been Drowned.
Oh, good old Ben
Oh,
Drown. That's classic.
Classics. Yeah,
That story
I
was
love
one
the
of reasons
classics.
for me wanting a new name.
I remember watching Peanut Butter Gamer, if anyone remembers him, go over the Ben Drown creepypasta and the whole Majora's Mask creepypastas, and listening to Gmodon do SCP stuff all the time as a kid, so I'd have to go with them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, my turn. So obviously, just about anything in the Lovecraft mythos, I'm a particularly big fan of the King in Yellow, which, if you know, the King in Yellow doesn't actually. He's not a physical thing that they interact with, and just that entire story fascinates me.
I love that story, and I love Lovecraft.
Another one that I'm not entirely sure whether I would classify it as horror or grimdark, because it's kind of both. I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream.
Oh, that is a good one.
Oh,
I
yeah,
would,
that's a good
right
one.
here.
I would absolutely classify that as a grimdark because of the ending.
Well, it also very heavily dips into horror. So
Yeah.
it's kind of both.
Nameless says, "I have no mouth," and we all just neuron activation.
But it is a very fascinating story. And
yeah, Harlan Ellison leapt on.
It is definitely something that if you have the ability to read it, I would recommend it. Though I feel like there are some people that may not be able to handle the story itself, especially if you understand the themes.
I've heard Harlan Ellison do his own audiobook reading of it. That just made it even more brutal, because he really likes to get into that character.
As far as creepypastas, I run into the issue that because of how I expect my own writing to be, I see lots of good concepts done poorly, but I guess the best one I would have to point at would be a combination. I like both the Apple sleep experiment, but also the Russian sleep experiment. I actually kind of prefer the Russian sleep experiment, though, because of the kind of ambiguity it leaves, as well as the point where I remember when I very first read it, I was convinced that it was true. So
it seems like war crimes that someone would commit back in that day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Russian Sleep Experiment, and then by proxy, I do actually somewhat enjoy Apple Sleep Experiment, though I do maintain that it is a good concept done poorly, which
Yeah.
can sum up most of the creepypasta fanfics. Actually, it can sum up a lot of fanfics. But yeah, so that would answer those. Adventure Blue 21 had a question while we were talking. What's your personal distinction between Grimdark and edgy? I'll let a fellow edgelord go first. I'll let you decide which one of you I'm talking about.
I can feel it in my soul. That
I feel threatened
he's
as well.
staring at my username.
I mean, I have 3 people I'm actually looking at the moment.
Dang.
Lone doesn't count. He's not here.
Lone's not that much of an edgelord. At least not overtly.
Well, if you say so. Man, okay. Probably my major difference is quality.
Yeah.
Like extremely. I would say that's about 90% of the distinction is okay, how good is it? And then I would say another big thing that I see, especially with like edgelord stories, is when you can tell it's a what is it called? Like the character is just the author, a self-insert. That's it. I think that's another thing that I recognize in a lot of like edgy stuff is just like there's a lot of self-inserts. I think that's my 2 major differences.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what it is. Grimdark good, edgy bad.
Matsu.
Oh, my
I
bad.
mean, yeah. I guess like
I've
especially for edgy
I have
characters.
one more.
like- oh,
Oh,
go ahead.
hold on. Go ahead.
Sorry. Usually with edgy stuff, the main character is very overpowered and doesn't really come into danger that much.
I have entire spiels about that. Well, we're not going to get into that. We're going to have a Mary Sue one coming up, and I'll have my moment.
I
Yeah,
can't wait to be part of that one.
I think in general, like it's like what makes an edgy character is just the fact that it's very underdeveloped. Like he is dark, but you don't actually get any development for this character. You don't get any in-depth analysis of why he is that way. He's just dark for being dark because someone wanted him to be dark. Which, as you said, it's a bad character. So
Stella.
That's a really good point.
because a lot of like dark characters that people really enjoy, usually they have like some points like, I don't know, redeeming qualities or like some backstory to justify why they are that way. Although some characters have backstories and they're not very good as well, so. But yeah, that's mostly my take on it.
Okay. Stella, your turn.
I don't know enough about edgy to make any assumptions, so I'm not gonna say anything.
Have
You
you,
know-
ever been a teenager?
Hey!
If
No,
you've
they
ever
skipped
been a
that.
teenager, then you know what edgy is, because we've all had an edge phase.
I know what edgy
I don't know, I'm so
But
trying
in
to
a-
get out of mine.
like I don't
I'm
know good
so
enough. I don't know
fucking-
good enough. A statement.
Okay, Sophia.
I'm kind of confused by the question. Can you just repeat the question again? I'm sorry.
Verbatim, it is, what's your personal distinction between grimdark and edgy?
I think like what the others are saying, I definitely agree. It's just edgy is kind of just there, and it just doesn't get a lot of development. Where the Grimdark, you probably have just more development in everything. There's more background, more story to it.
Nashi.
So yeah, I'm about the same when it comes to like the difference between edgy and grimdark. Grimdark has like a point; it has a story to tell. Edgy tends to just be like dark and violent for the sake of being dark and violent.
Very much.
So I'm going to answer this now. Edgy or edgelord or however you want to say it is an aesthetic, whereas grimdark is a genre of storytelling. You can call just about anything edgy or edgelord because it has dark colors, normally red or black, mixed together in some form. They normally say off the cuff random shit that's like, "Oh, I'm gonna kill you," and shit like that. And like, no, that's an aesthetic. Edgy is an aesthetic. You can describe something as edgy, but you can't say this is a edge story. Whereas grimdark is a form of storytelling that is described by its dark themes and depressing nature. So that is the difference for me as a self-styled edgelord. I mean, if you've seen,
sounds about right to me.
If you've seen my OC, you know I am an edgelord.
Yes.
And we love we love him.
We love you for it.
Yeah.
But I think that's all we are going to do for tonight. We actually ran right up to the 2-hour mark because somebody got me distracted. Thank you.
Man, I wonder who that could be.
For those of you that may or may not still be watching, if you enjoyed that and would like to see more of it, we are going to be doing in a couple of weeks now. Maybe next week. I'd have to look at the schedule. But we're going to do a fandom Mary Sue and one of those like, why are there so many of them?
Ooh.
So we're gonna talk about Mary Sue's. We're gonna talk about Mary Sue's in the fandom. We're gonna talk about, by extension, the edgelord and overpowered character as well. So if you're interested in that, if you're interested in all of that, then be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the notification bell, follow on Twitch, all that good stuff. If you want to show further support to the channel, there's links in the description to my Discord and Patreon. Of course, there's also the YouTube membership thing. If you're on Twitch, you can subscribe on Twitch as well. That also massively helps out. And a big thank you to my priest tier Patreons, Cameo Shadowness, Ice Crystal, and Scarmex. Without y'all's help, I couldn't continue to do what I am doing. Other than that, we will not be having a Lost Memories Second Chances because Nameless needs to go grocery shopping. That is the reason we are not having one this week.
That is very important.
The horrors of responsibilities.
I know, right? I have to feed myself.
Oh, terrifying.
But should be having a Heart of Darkness though, and of course I will be doing random game streams throughout. We are currently waiting to see when the Seamless Co-op mod is updated, which should be, according to the developer, it's going to be some point by the end of this week, which is either tomorrow or Sunday. If they manage to stick to that schedule, then we will be doing a new series where me, Fair, and DJ all play Elden Ring together.
Ooh.
We're also, if you guys are interested in seeing more horror games, I do every Thursday now a indie showcase of horror games I find on itch.io, which you are welcome if you find me on Twitter or join the Discord. You can suggest preferably free indie horror games that I will then check out and play on the channel.
Oh boy, I have a list here.
I have a good game that I could share.
Other than that,
If I may.
what's up?
Just wanted to say, as a bit of a closing, as the SCP Foundation says, stay paranoid, stay vigilant, and stay spooky. Good night, everyone.
Other than that, everybody have a great evening, and don't forget to drink water.
Hydrate or dihydrate down in the back
Yeah.
rooms.
Yeah.
Hydrate or
I
dihydrate.
forgot.
Okay, the music's going. For those of you, this is the point. For those of you who haven't done this before, this is the point where I ask you if you guys had any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that. Let me know if there's something that you didn't enjoy or did enjoy that I either should do less of or do more of. I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed it a bit more than last time. You were kind of, I think that somewhere things got lost in translation and you joined in on one that you didn't really have much to say about last time. I will say, keep trying to get onto the musician one. I just picked a bunch of random names and yeah, so you guys had like 17 people sign up, I think it was, at the end of it, so I was just like, I don't know which ones to pick. Well, other than Drummer Shaw. Because I needed a big name to, what's up?